There we go. No. Good morning and welcome to the Caregiver Teleconnection. My name is Glenda Rogers and I'm going to be the facilitator for today's session with Lucy Barylak. And you can see there on your screen, our topic today is long-term care. When is the right time and who decides? Let me tell you just a little bit about Lucy before she gets started with her presentation. Lucy Barylak received her master's degree in social work from McGill University and has dedicated her career to supporting caregivers. Lucy was the founder and long term care manager of the Caregiver Support Center at a respite program for family caregivers. There, she oversaw multidisciplinary training across caregiving, mental health, elder abuse, and palliative care. In 2003 and 2012, she received the Queen's Jubilee Award, presented by the Canadian Home Care Association, awarded for her dedication in developing a national coalition to support the issues and challenges facing informal caregivers. Ms. Barylak also co-edited a book for healthcare professionals entitled Responding Creatively to the Needs of Caregivers. She has been a key architect of screening and assessment tools of family caregivers, for which she provides training to healthcare professionals across North America. Lucy consults for private industry, including WellMed Charitable Foundation and clinics in Texas. Additionally, Lucy is a liaison supervisor at the School of Social Work at McGill University, where she currently supervises 20 interns. She'd also like you to know that she was a caregiver for her mother for about 10 years. Lucy, welcome to the session today.
Thank you so much, everybody, and welcome. Well, today our session is going to be about an hour long, but what I would like to say is I'd love it to be a little bit more interactive. There's so much information that you can share with others. So let's see what happens. But I do want to let you know that after the hour, we are going to stop the recording. I will stay on for an additional half hour for anybody who wants to just ask any questions. It's going to be extremely informal. Okay, so let's get started. Long-term care, when is the right time and who decides? You know, for many people, thinking about whether someone should move into a care home is one of the most difficult things you'll ever do. As a caregiver, you're likely to feel a wide range of emotions that can be hard to deal with and can affect your decision. Some people feel that moving into a care home is the right thing to do, but others feel a sense of guilt or loss might make it hard for them to think clearly and be objective. It can be hard to make a decision to move into a care home, to be made in a rush, especially if the person, for example, has been admitted to hospital and cannot be discharged back home. But I feel so strongly that it's important to learn to deal with these emotions and not let them get in the way of doing the right thing for the person with dementia, as well as for yourself, your emotional, physical, and social well being. So let's look at some of the emotions that you may be dealing with. We can move to the next slide. You know, it is so important to acknowledge your feelings and not bury them. By acknowledging the feelings, it's the first step that you're actually taking, acknowledging that you may need help and support. So I'm just going to list some fears that you may have. And I could certainly tell you that a lot of these fears I had with dealing with my mother's issue when I was thinking about care homes. And maybe you can write down a few of your own and we can talk about it. Certainly, a lot of caregivers tell that there's tremendous fear, afraid of the future, of the unknown. There is sadness, and it's really normal to feel that way. There's anticipation, not knowing what to expect. A lot of caregivers say that they're distrustful. What if the care home is not going to take care of the person that I love? And many times there's almost a sense of shock, is this really happening to me? Is it really happening to them? Anger plays a big role. Why me? Why them? But for some caregivers, there's even relief, and it's okay. Don't feel guilty about that. There's a relief that maybe I can start living a little bit my life because I can't go on like this. There can be overwhelming. People really do get depressed. They're sad. They're not functioning. And there's grief. Grief, the loss of what was, the life that I had, the life that that person had. Because in many ways, that person is no longer there. They're not who they were before. So I'm just wondering, did I miss any emotions that any of you are feeling at this particular time? Please feel free to join in. It's a lot to think about. It's okay. As we go along, you can share with me. So can we go to the next slide, please? You know, caring for a loved one can be very rewarding, and I know that from my own experience. In my caregiving journey, I found myself on a roller coaster ride, but I also know that caring for a relative or a friend can generate many feelings and many emotions. Many times, caregivers never realize all that they are doing in a 24-hour day. So let's look at some of the tasks. The question is, where do your needs fit into this schedule? There are two people in this relationship. Both are equally important. So how do you take care of yourself, especially your physical and mental well-being? I want you to think about it. And maybe if you have a piece of paper, a pencil, or you can write it on your phone, as I go along with it, jot down and see, what are you doing on a daily basis? Because many times caregivers are surprised when I do this exercise with them. I tell them, put down those things, and think about that. So there's supervision, there's hygiene, there's toileting for some caregivers, meal preparation, feeding, dressing, undressing. Some people need to be fed and some people need just to be supervised. You can be in and out of bed. There's medications that you need to give them. Walking with them a little bit, going on outings, housekeeping, laundry, socializing, hopefully times with family, friends, accompaniment to appointments. Did I leave anything out? Are there any other tasks that you could think of that you're doing that I did not mention right now?
How about bill paying or taking care of the finances?
100%. That's really important. And many times for some caregivers, the other person used to take care of it, and now you have to do that. I see that there's grocery shopping. Absolutely, for sure.
All
And
the driving.
what is it?
All the driving.
All the driving, yeah.
Absolutely. And I'd really, if you don't have to do it right now, but take the time maybe today or after the session, just write all those things down and put a little bit of a time associated with it. And then see for yourself, oh my gosh, acknowledge what you're doing. And if you can continue doing it, by all means. But if you can't, and if you're feeling overwhelmed, there are really good reasons for that. So the question now is, how do you decide if it's the right time? So let's go to the next slide. So how does a caregiver know when you are no longer managing the daily caregiving routine and planning responsibilities? What signals alerts you that you are in trouble of getting lost in caregiving? Can a caregiver who cherishes a loved one, can you set limits or responsibilities without feeling guilty or morally bankrupt? There are questions these are the questions at the heart of a successful long-term caregiving. Unfortunately, for most caregivers, these questions do not arise until they are feeling overwhelmed and depleted. So, knowing when someone with dementia should move into a care home can be very difficult. But I could also want to add, it doesn't only have to be dementia as well. It could be a caregiver who has suffered a stroke or uh, any other disease that the caregiver needs to do all those tasks for them. But I think that the main thing to think about is whether your loved one's needs are being met at home or whether they are more at risk at home. These are questions that you need to ask yourself. Other main questions might be, can you continue caring if you are physically and mentally stressed and burned out? Do you get angry, frustrated, and don't see the light at the end of the tunnel? If that's how you're feeling, it's time to really step back and look at that. What can I do what support do I need if I want to continue caring? But is it realistic? Can I really do this? Now, the other thing is, have you been diagnosed with a new medical condition? Maybe you're not taking care of yourself. And we know from research, I can tell you for sure, that caregivers do not take care of themselves. Women don't go to mammograms on a yearly basis. Many caregivers do not go to their family doctors for checkup. There's a lot of neglect, and a lot of conditions do occur when you're a caregiver for a long time. We were just talking about it yesterday, Dr. Sklar, myself. There's heart disease, there's diabetes, there is heartburn. There's many conditions that affect, because the stress is what causes a lot of these medical issues. And are you daily caregivers' tasks putting you at risk for injuries or fall? How many times caregivers, I have a backache, I have a sore neck, I have an arm. You should not be putting yourself at risk, because by putting yourself at risk, you're also putting your loved one at risk at the same time. So I just want to hear from you, is if what I'm saying, does it make sense? Do any of you feel some of the things that I'm talking about? Because I can tell you that I certainly was in that position. Even though I was a professional and I was supposedly an expert in caregiving, once you're a caregiver, all that is kind of lost, because all I was at that time was a daughter who didn't have any other siblings, a daughter who was raising a family, who was working full time, and here I was trying to deal with all those issues. So I'm going to kind of leave it open if anybody wants to share a little bit of what you're going through at this time.
For the individual on your telephone that is dialed in, you can press *6 on that telephone, and that will unmute your phone and you can join the conversation.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
As a sister who is caregiver to her brother, I put off surgery for several years that I needed personally to take care of my brother. Although there are other siblings, they didn't want the responsibilities. And I do get angry, frustrated, tired, emotional, because being a caregiver is a lot of work. And I still haven't, to this day, had the surgeries that I needed, or the care that I needed, because of taking care of my brother's issues.
Well, thank you so much for sharing, but I really hope that you're not putting yourself at risk. Remember what I said in the beginning. There are two people in this relationship. There needs to be a balance. It's not one or the other. So I truly hope that you will take the time and maybe get the support that you need to be able to take care of your medical problems as well. But thank you, and I hope that you look at it in a different perspective. You don't have to completely give up on yourself. That's not what caregiving is about. Caregiving is about caring for yourself as well. Being able to say, no, I can no longer continue to provide care in this way, may not only save the caregiver from emotional and physical burnout, but can also be beneficial for the care receiver. And I have to say, I personally recognize that it was very difficult to maintain my mother at home. It was the hardest time in my caregiving journey. My mom was a single mother. She raised me all by herself. I had no siblings, and I kind of felt tremendous responsibility that I wanted to keep her at home for as long as possible. So these are all kinds of, these are situations where it's important to not, as I said, not sacrifice one person for the other. So where do we go forward in all this, right? And so I really want to talk about red flags. Okay, red flags always pop up, but many times we see red flags in our relationships and whatever. But the red flags pop up when you're caregiving. And many times we want to ignore them because we hope that they will go away and that we won't have to deal with them. So if we can go to the next slide and look at some of the red flags, and maybe you can identify them as well for yourself. So first one, the person is having difficulty performing their daily activities. Some of it they used to be able to assist and do some of the ADL, maybe dress themselves, and now they're no longer able to. They have a difficult time maneuvering things. It just changes. The things that they used to do before, they no longer can do now. That is a red flag to keep in mind, okay? It doesn't mean that it's the beginning or the end, but it's a red flag. You also notice that there's changes in their behavior. You notice that they are more passive. They're becoming physically, verbally, or sexually aggressive that they never were before. And some caregivers tell me, well, it only happened once. I can tell you if it happened once, it could possibly happen again. So you have to be prepared. Or you find that they are more depressed. They're not communicating. They don't, they kind of ignore you. So these are red flags to keep in mind. Many times people with dementia, unfortunately, develop delusions and hallucinations. What I mean by that is they are seeing things that are not there. I had this experience with clients. They felt that bugs were crawling on them. They were frightened and accusing their caregiver of stealing their things or cheating on them. This is a very difficult situation to handle. It's a very stressful thing because for them, this is really real. So it might happen once, but if it happened once, it could happen again. Now, if you all of a sudden see that they're wandering, they're falling, they're sundowning, start noticing that they're getting lost even in the home. There are more falls in the home and you're finding it difficult to assist them to get up. They are sundowning, meaning they are more restless and there is agitation, irritability, confusion can begin or worsen as daylight begins to fade. And they're not cooperative. So these are things that you didn't see before. It's a red flag. Now, some caregivers tell me that they refusal of care. I mean, everything was going along well, and one day they no longer want to take a bath. They refuse to eat. They don't want to change their clothes, which makes life very difficult. This can be extremely challenging and difficult to accept, especially when you don't know what to do. Refusing to take medications is a big one. It's extremely difficult to handle since not taking the medication can put them at risk and cause tremendous anxiety. Now, the next one, incontinence management, is a big one for some caregivers. It can be difficult for many caregivers, but not necessarily so if the person needs to use protective garments and you are comfortable with that and they are as well, so it's okay. However, if it is an issue for you, it certainly can be a red flag. Many caregivers feel they're embarrassed doing that task, or they feel slightly disgusted by that as well when they have to actually clean the person. So there is another red flag. There could also be increased physical decline and health issues. You realize they need more nursing care or medical care that you cannot provide for them at home. For example, if you know they're falling out of bed and you tried all kinds of things, they may need a hospital bed. There's many, many issues. Physical stress and burnout, you know. You may also feel very overwhelmed that you sometimes, I guess, as the other participant said, you do get angry. You do get frustrated. So if you yourself feel that you are getting depressed, okay, what I mean by that, it's difficult for you to do your everyday chores. You're just not feeling yourself. You're isolating yourself. You don't have a social life. These are red flags. So what I want to say, if you notice any of these red flags, please make an appointment with the person's doctor and your doctor as well. There may be new medical issues that you're not aware of, that your loved one is displaying. They could have a urinary tract infection. They, even some new medications can cause this difficult behavior. They might need to change their medication. It might need to be increased, or it might, the doctor may decide to even stop some of that medication. So these red flags are important to keep in mind. It doesn't mean that it will continue, but keep a log. See what's happening, because it's giving you an indication that things are changing and you may need to do something about it. Can we go to the next slide, please? All right, so we come to this point. Who makes the decision? But before we go any further, are there any questions or any comments that anybody would like to make? Okay, a lot to think about. Have any of you seen some of those red flags? I have to say, for me personally, the first red flag that sort of popped up was.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question about medication. My sister, she has dementia, but she refuses to take the medicine. So I try to encourage her. She'll say one day she's gonna take it, but then she won't. And then I'm worried about the side effects for her to take it. So I'm in a predicament.
It's a big problem. There's no doubt about it. A lot of people forget that they took the medications. They think that they, and you know, your sister may be at the point where she needs a little bit more supervision. That's a red flag. Something is changing there. Something needs to be, you know, you need to look into that a little bit further. It's a big issue.
But how do you get her to take the medicine? That's my issue. She knows she take her regular medicine, high blood pressure, and an acid pill, but she count the pills. She know exactly how many she's supposed to take. She don't take anything she's not supposed to take. How do I start her on new medication for her dementia?
Well, I don't know if you're with her or not, but you know, I hope that you stay on for the additional half hour. I'll go into it a little bit more deeply. I mean,
Okay.
I don't know if you're living with her or not. There's ways of dealing with that. So please stay on, and I would be very happy to talk a little bit more with you about this particular.
Okay, thanks.
You're very welcome. You know,
let me say
yes,
something.
please.
So this is Marge McCauley, and I'm caregiver for my husband. So yes, I live with him, and I started. He takes pills in the morning and at night, and I put them. I don't leave them in the bottles anymore. So a year ago or 2 years ago, I think we started where the morning pills are in the individual little, you know, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. weekly thing that's a square long container, and the nighttime pills are in a round container with the 7 days. So all nighttime pills are in round containers, all daytime pills are in straight containers. And you know, I understand the hard part about if your sister has her pills in bottles. You know, it is harder to get her to, you know, because she's opening the bottle and counting the pills and taking them out. If somehow you could get those pill containers and say, you know, we're going to put the pills in these containers, and here, you watch me do it, and these are the morning ones, da 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 da, and you know, you don't need to have to worry about them anymore.
Well, thank you. That's a very, very good suggestion. I think, yes, it's an excellent suggestion. I think the problem arises when the person refuses to take the pills, not necessarily not knowing which ones to take. But thank you for that tip. It's a good tip. Let's get back to who makes the decision. I want to say that even the person in question does not have the mental capacity to be involved in the decision-making process about the move. You should still involve them and make them feel valued and considered. Where possible, do offer them choices to give them a feeling of control, and always be positive and upbeat. Unless you see that talking about them makes them very agitated, then there's no point, right? This can be a really difficult and upsetting time for everyone. So it's important not to rush conversation. Allow all family members enough time to come to terms with the move, and put proper plans in place to reassure the person that they will be well looked after and that you're not abandoning them. If the family member in question lacks the mental capacity to know what is in their best interest, or is unable to communicate, you may need to make a decision on their behalf. Not a big, it's a very difficult thing to do. When you decide that you can continue to care, how do you break it to the family? And how do you manage your own feelings of sadness and guilt, of, and as I said before, relief as well. So what I want to say to you is that when dealing with other family members, communication is key. Try to organize a family meeting. For some families, it makes sense to find a neutral third party with clinical training to manage or attend a meeting. When you explain that something needs to change, make it clear. You're not telling them what to do or forcing them to help in the caregiving role, but rather that a decision needs to be made in the best interest of the care receiver and of yourself. And give them examples why you cannot continue to care. I know that this is a difficult place to be in, especially with other family members who, for whatever reason, feel that, they want that person to remain with you. But at the end of the day, you're the one, if that person cannot make the decision, that has to really come to terms with the fact that you cannot continue. One of the things in the bullets, it says, were there assumptions made over the years? Were promises made? Can these promises be kept? So why did I even put that? Because I took it from my own experience, where my mother had always said to me, please don't ever put me in one of those places. And I made her a promise. And I said, I will never put you in that, in a place like that. And that took a lot of emotional stress on me. And I had to meet with someone and talk about that. Was I being realistic about those promises? Was it in her best interest? And whatever decision I did come to, it was made because I was able to look at my own feelings, and more important, about what was her needs. So I want to kind of open it up if anybody is having issues with other family members. We can certainly talk about it, and I'd love to hear from you.
The participant that has area code 205, did you have something you wanted to ask or a comment you wanted to make? I see that your phone is unmuted is the reason I'm asking. Okay,
I
maybe
did.
that's just an error. Oh, go ahead.
I did ask the question. I was the one asking about the medication.
Ah,
Okay, you didn't have another one then.
Oh no, not right now. I don't.
Okay, well, I'll mute your phone in the end then. Thank you.
so does any of you facing any issues or challenges with other family members?
I am. My name is Joy. I am the primary caregiver for my mother. My sister, I'll call her a snowbird. I live here in Wisconsin. She takes off mid-October, comes back in May. And when she's here, she does help me. She takes over the grocery shopping, which is a chore I hate for myself. So doing it for my mother is very difficult for me. So I'm very thankful for that. But she's getting ready to leave again. And she's like, Mom might not be able to be on her own anymore. And so I feel like she's pushing me to make a decision that I'm not ready to make for several reasons. One, I'm going to have to get a Medicaid bed for my mom because she's through one of those programs. And those beds are few and far between. And so I'm going to have to take whatever's available. And that bothers me a little. I don't know how to, I don't want to go tour places because I may not get that. I don't get to have a choice, probably, is what I'm thinking anyway. I don't know how to kind of feel better about that part, that Medicaid bed thing, for one. And then just how to talk my sister through. I'm the one dealing with the ADRC people and the community care people and having all these appointments, on an every 3-month or more basis. And I feel like she's doing okay still. There's things that, I have to step up a little bit, and I'm going to start doing that for her, but she's on her own. She's in a little apartment on her own. I have an Echo show that I can like pop in and see her during my work day if I need to. She doesn't know how to call me from it, but I can at least check on her that way, in more ways than just running to her. So I don't know how to talk to my sister about that.
Well, you're making a very good point, that's for sure. I mean, maybe your sister, like I don't know your sister, but she might feel guilty herself, that here she's taking off. And so it's her way of kind of identifying that maybe your mother needs a little bit more help. Did you ever ask her why she's feeling the way she's feeling?
No, she just likes to point out to me, the changes she sees when she is gone for so long and then comes back.
And do you identify with some of them? Do you see them as well?
I do see them. Sundowning is one of those things that I see, but the sundowning that I experience with her is don't have an important conversation in the evening. It doesn't work well. That's kind of how I handle that, is if I really need to talk to mom about something, it's not going to be in the evening.
Well, I think that it's, I commend you for being able to kind of identify these things and to kind of look at. The whole idea behind this session is for people to start looking at it. It's not for you to make any decision. It's just the process of caring for someone that may in the future need to go to a care home. So I think you're doing all the right things that you should be doing. You're checking up, you're identifying the red flags, you're looking at how you could manage it or not manage it. But as long as you're kind of prepared, because if we go to the next slide for 1 minute, I think it's important for people to have information. to think about what are the gains and challenges. And it's very, very individual. It's a very individual decision, especially for you, because right now it seems to work for you. And some of your challenges are exactly what you said about the beds and the fact that it's really difficult to navigate. So if we look at the gains, but it's good to know. So what the future might bring. So medical and non-medical care is available 24/7. Staff ensures medications are taken appropriately and that they know how to deal.
Can the person decide not to take them when they're in a care facility?
Can the person decide? It all
Yeah, can they say, no, I don't want to take my medicine to those staff members, and then they don't give them to them?
I think that it all depends on the person's cognitive ability to make those decisions. And
Okay.
if the person is not capable to make those decisions on their own, then something should be done about that. As a caregiver, you need to be involved in making sure that the medication is given to them. Does that kind of clear it up a bit?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so if we look at the gains, all personal care needs can be taken care of, hopefully as best as they can be. Meals and housekeepings are provided, activities and outings are available, community living provides opportunity for social stimulation. And I have to tell you, some people that go into care homes do much better than when they were at home. And the physical environment is accessible and includes safeguards for wandering, sundowning, or things like that. But then there's the challenges. There isn't much privacy many times, even if you do have your own private room. Yeah, adapting to a communal living. It's not for everybody. There is very little degree of control, meaning there are times for meals, there's times for bathing. It's a little bit more strict. Rules and regulations and policies need to be met. Quality of fruit preferences, I mean, that's a big one. So it's important to look into that. And sometimes distances travel to visit for caregivers and other family members can be challenging. And for those who are couples, separation of couple that you've lived together for so many years is difficult. And then there's a new caregiver role. All of a sudden, you don't stop being a caregiver, but your role has changed. And change is very, very challenging. So I think it is important to educate ourselves of what are the gains and what are the challenges. Are there any other challenges that any one of you can see or any gains that you feel are important to identify? Okay. So I'm trying to kind of look at it in the perspective of being able to not make a decision when it's in a crisis. This is what this session is all about. To be able to look at it in a global way so that you're a little bit more prepared. And if you do decide, you have these things on hand. So if we go to the next slide, please. Now, before making a decision, I think one of the most important thing is to have your loved one assessed by a professional at home. And there's a lot of community services where a social worker come in, physiotherapists and occupational therapists. And why am I saying that? Because they can assess what are the needs, the particular needs of your loved one, meaning how many hours of care do they actually need? Where would the best facility be? Are there services that they need that you need to make sure that when you're looking for someplace that it's available to them? Gather recommendations and options. So, your services in your community, it's very important to ask a lot of questions, to be very informed of what is available. And the other one is it's important to self-assess as a caregiver. And we actually started doing that. Remember in the beginning when I said, sit down, take a look at what are you doing in a 24-hour day? Are you physically able to do that? Are you mentally able to continue doing that? Is it something that, is it affecting your well-being? Is it affecting your physical well-being? So doing that is important, and writing it down and really having a good idea, a good impression of what is it that you need. You need to trust you will know, I believe that you will know when the right time. So don't let anybody influence you. Trust yourself. Not making a move is the same as taking a decision to stay home. Okay, that, it's something that you need to also think about. And it's so important to explore different places. And I know for some of you, it might not be the right thing, as one of the ladies was saying, because there's not everywhere that you can actually choose a place. But if you can, it is important to make sure that the place that you're looking at is culturally sensitive to the person you're caring for, language, food, music. These are all things that are essential for the person to feel at home. And you don't have to do this alone. Have a professional help you. As I said, there are resources. You could sit and talk to someone. And for some people, it's important to go through the process of possibly counseling or even support groups, because you really need to get to a point to know that this is the right decision. Recognize the emotional process is as important as the application process. All those emotions that I was talking about are very important to understand, to not deny, and move forward. And there's a huge adjustment period for both of you. I want to tell you that it takes about a good 3 to 6 months to adjust, for the person to adjust in a new place, and for you to adjust as well. Because things change, things happen. All these different changes has an emotional impact on both the caregiver and the care receiver. Are there any comments that anybody or any questions anyone would like to ask? So let's go to the next slide, please. So let's say you made that decision and the person is in a new environment. Once the decision has been made to transfer the person to home care, it's definitely an adjustment period, as I said before. Now, I think that it's so important to get to know the staff. Find a primary contact person to speak to when you have questions and concerns. So it's good to connect with someone, at least one person that you know. Get to know who they are. And, share your knowledge of the person with your staff, their needs, their preferences, a bit of information about your individual really help them also to recognize them. Maintain realistic expectations of the home and make an effort to get to know the staff. That is one of the most important things, as well as the management, the residents, and other caregivers. Don't demand, be patient, and express thanks. Our healthcare workers now, they're so limited, they're so short of staff. And just being able to express your thanks and appreciation is so important. It's so important to them to hear as well. It's also important to bring any items that might make the person with dementia, or any person for that matter, more comfortable, pictures from the home. Sometimes you can even bring a piece of furniture that means a lot to them. Comfortable beddings for the bed. Also, it's good to get involved, help with tasks, join the person with meals if you can, attend activities organized for the residents when you're able to do so. Keep reassuring the person with dementia by telling them how much you care. Try to encourage other relatives to visit as often as they can. And stay up to date with the doctors and staff about the person's condition, their care plan, their treatment. Ask for a copy of the care plan. You're allowed to do that. If you see something is wrong, come with suggestions. not only with complaints. I think just being, because in a way you're kind of immersing yourself in the situation as well. It becomes your environment, it becomes your community. Often the transition of someone going into a nursing home is harder on the family members watching it than the person experiencing it. While you continue to wonder how your loved one is doing, and if they are sleeping, eating well, they might already be adjusting and feel at home. You will continue to remember that way. I mean, it's something to keep in mind that it's remember our feelings, our apprehensions, not really trusting. You have to give it time. You really have to give it time. It's not an easy thing to do. At this point, I'm going to share a little bit of my own experience, and I hope that some of you will share it as well. I finally came to the point where I recognized that my mother really needed a lot more care. I couldn't bring her into my home because at the time, my youngest daughter was extremely asthmatic. And my mother was a smoker, a 2-pack a day smoker, literally. Um, and she wouldn't stop smoking. And somehow it was very hard to get her out of that habit. And I finally found a place where they actually allowed someone to smoke in the smoking room. So we did place my mom in this environment, and she lasted there for 3 days. Why? Because she wasn't able to get herself, and the staff wasn't able to always take her to the smoking room. And I'm sharing this with you, and I made the decision to take my mother out of there and bring her back to her home, where I did keep the apartment. I didn't break the lease. And I did have to hire 24-hour help. It was a tremendous toll on me and my family, but it's a decision that I made. So there's no right or wrong. That's what I'm trying to say. There's no right or wrong. It's up to you. But I knew that for my own well being, I had to do what I did by getting the 24-hour help because I could not be there. So I sacrificed other things. But that was a decision that I made. And I'm just hoping that whatever decision each and every one of you makes it's the balancing act. What's good for the person and what's good for you as well. And with that, I'd like to open it up if you have a question or a comment to make. And if not, please stay with me after we're almost at the top of the hour, and we can share a little bit more. There's also references that you can go, a lot of the things that I'm saying. There's a lot of good information out there.
Lucy, do you have any suggestions? And I've heard this on the Caregiver Teleconnection over the years, for a family whose loved one, it is obvious to them that they need care more than they can do, but that person has not been declared incompetent and are still able to make their own decisions. How do you walk that balance beam of, trying to encourage them to make that difficult decision? And they really aren't capable, but they have not been declared incompetent.
That is one of the biggest problems that a lot of caregivers have. And unfortunately, there is no, I don't have this formula to tell you. The thing is that a person has the right, if they're not declared incompetent, to live their lives the way they choose to live their lives. Nobody wants anyone to make choices for ourselves. And many times the change only happens when there's a crisis situation.
Yeah.
I know it's a terrible thing to say. And so this is what happens. That's why it is so important to make sure that there is a living will, whatever it is that we have to, all the paperwork needs to be done. But if you really feel that the person is at risk, now let me go back. If they're really, really at risk, it depends what the risk factor is. Okay. Many times they could be taken into the hospital, to the emergency, but it depends on the risk factor. Obviously, if they're at risk for hurting themselves physically, yes, there's something that you can do. But if they decide not to take their medication, there's nothing you can do if they're not declared incompetent. If they don't want to bathe, if they don't want to change their clothes, if they don't want to eat as well as they should, there's not much that anyone can do.
It's really hard to watch, isn't it?
It's horrible to watch. It really is horrible to watch.
Well,
And
thank
many
you.
families get angry and frustrated. But I think if you can just be patient with the person and explain to them that you're worried about them, that you love them, what else can I do to help you? Do it for me. Sometimes that works also. Can you do it for me? Let me help you. Can I bring some food? Whatever it is.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. It's not my personal situation, and I'm so thankful for that. But I have a friend that their family's going through this very thing, and it's hard to know, how to help them help this person. So thank you for your encouragement. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Anyone else have questions, comments? Lucy's going to stay on for about another half hour to talk to you individually. If you would care to stay on for a while longer. So any questions or comments short of that next half hour that's going to happen? Well, okay. It's been my pleasure to be with you today, Lucy, and with all of you. And thank you for joining us today. I'm going to leave you now and turn off our recording so that you can have privacy in your conversation with Lucy. So I'll see you next time, Lucy. And take care of yourself, all you caregivers. You're doing a hard job, and we know that. And we appreciate what you do for the person you're caring for. So let me turn the recording off.